as a group of nations, we need to understand that America is the world's flagship of freedom. And if we don't have a secure border, that hurts everyone in the long run.
But what do you do if it costs? I mean, if this costs dozens of billions of dollars, and I hear you saying, you're saying maybe part of it is a fence, maybe part of it is a wall, there's going to be a barrier, but this comes at a steep cost. And obviously Republicans want to go back, many of them, I'm assuming you do, to their fiscally conservative roots. What do you do about that cost?
Well, you know, I haven't changed my mind about being fiscally conservative, and I appreciate the assumption. It turns out this time it was correct. But the reality, Brianna, is that we have to measure all of the costs, ancillary and otherwise, and make the best decision that we can. But I can suggest to you that there are national security implications here for a porous border. You know, we sometimes used to make the point that, you know, if someone wanted to smuggle in a dangerous weapon, even a nuclear weapon, into America, how would they do it? And the suggestion was made, well, we'll simply hide it in a bale of marijuana. And so the implications of a porous border have national security dimensions that are very significant and that bear a lot of consideration when we talk about costs. You know, go ahead.
The Department of Homeland Security is trying to deal with that very issue. They have these tougher new guidelines for immigration enforcement. You're very familiar with this, being from Arizona. Senator Chuck Schumer said in a statement, quote, "This is a waste of limited resources, disrupts our economy, does nothing to keep us safe, and makes everyone a target, causing panic within the immigrant community." What's your reaction to what is, of course, a very hyper-partisan atmosphere around this issue?
Well, first, in all due deference, that sounds about like something Senator Chuck Schumer would say, to try to exaggerate the equation and to try to bring chaos to it. The bottom line is,
well, but there is panic. I mean, and I'm sure you know this, being from Arizona. There is a lot of concern, and you're talking about giving local authorities expanded abilities, local law enforcement even, to essentially deport or detain. I mean, you have to admit there's a lot of concern around that.
But that's been something that has been around a long time. I mean,
well, no, these are expanded. I mean, this is different. These guidelines are different.
Well, part of the panic here is the media overstating and confusing some of the things that are actually happening here. And if you look at what the Trump administration's actual policies are, their actual activities are, it's focusing
but that's
on
what we're
those
doing. I mean, we're looking
damage to the country, and I don't think that the media is accurately portraying what the real situation is.
Well, no, but we are. I mean, you heard, Congressman, you heard me describe it right there, and you tell me if this is incorrect. DHS regulations that give expanded ability to local law enforcement on this issue. I mean, what is being misrepresented about that description?
Well, for 50 years or more, federal law allowed people, it even required people to have documentation with them for 50 years. And so all of a sudden now, when we take a closer look, and we have to have local officers, local law enforcement involved. Otherwise, we simply don't have the reach from the federal government.
But you're right, it is all of a sudden, because this is a new expansion of power, of immigration enforcement power that empowers states and empowers local law enforcement. So I hear you're saying that this has always been in effect, but this is new, and this is additional to what was in effect.
I'm saying that the federal law has been in place for a long time. It's how that was enforced, and I will make no argument with you that there is a different president, there's a different administration in place, and yes, the law is being more clearly enforced at the present than it was before. My contention is that before, when Barack Obama just kind of stood by and let whatever would happen, that it endangered this country. And when you endanger America,
he deported more people than George W. Bush.
Well, I'm sorry, say that again?
He deported more people under his administration than George W. Bush did.
Well, I don't know what all the numbers are, but if you're suggesting
I'm telling you the numbers. He had 3 million something, and George W. Bush.
Border security than Donald Trump.
I am telling you the numbers. 3 million deportations, 3 million something, and George W. Bush had 2 million something.
So now tell me that Barack Obama was more committed to border enforcement than Donald Trump.
You tell me what you make of those numbers of greater. You said he stood by. You said he stood by. And I'm just telling you the numbers of deportations.
I'm suggesting to you that Barack Obama's border security was something that, in my judgment, was dangerous to this country. And I continue to stand by that. And, you know, I'm married to an immigrant wife, so this notion that everybody that is committed to border security is somehow racist or hates other people is a disgrace, and it's just not true. And I'm committed to doing everything I can to see freedom for all people in all the world, and I want to see immigrants come here legally and be a part of the greatest enterprise in freedom in the history of the world.
Well, look,
and I just want
to be clear, Congressman,
and look on this on reasoned basis rather than what I'm seeing here in this interview.
That was no suggestion that I was making. I guess I'm just thinking, if you're looking back at President Obama, and if you do look back to George W. Bush, he proposed a comprehensive immigration plan that included what you and many Republicans would consider amnesty. But this was a comprehensive plan. I mean, you're saying Obama stood by. Sure there was, and
there was
of course
disagreement
there was.
on that. I'm saying that there was a bill signed to build the border wall, and Obama ignored that. And so there's no question in my mind about that. All over the world, if you ask people what their assessment is of whether or not Mr. Obama was more committed to protecting America's national security, national borders, national sovereignty, there's no comparison. And, you know, I know that Mr. Obama we're looking at the rearview mirror on his administration now, but it's going to take a long time to clean up
so what do you make of his
this man perpetrated on America.
So then why did he have a record number of deportations?
Well, there are a lot of things that could add to that. If you look at how many people were coming in, if you look at what the policies among the ICE agents themselves were. But again, if you're telling the world and telling me that Barack Obama was more committed to border security than
No, I'm not. I'm telling you he deported more people than George W. Bush, and he did so in a more focused way, concentrating more on criminals. And I mean, those are just the numbers. Those are the facts.
Well, listen, if you look at the number of criminals that came in here under Barack Obama, my office can send you some statistics that will certainly put this in perspective. And the reality is that Barack Obama saw a lot of undocumented immigrants not as people trying to come in and find freedom, but as unregistered Democrats. Now, I know that those are strong words, but unfortunately they have the tragic disadvantage of being true. And this president has a different view of that. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be disagreements among the Republican Party with some of the specifics. But right now, what I see Donald Trump doing is emphasizing America's national security, emphasizing border control, and it's been said 1,000 times. But in order to, if you have a patient coming into the emergency room, you got to stop the bleeding before you can do the other kinds of surgery.
Well, Congressman Franks, we appreciate you being with us to discuss this. I am going to be looking for those statistics that you promised, as well as what you said about unregistered Democrats. I'll be putting that up on Twitter just to make sure, so we can continue this conversation on social media.
And my promise is to send you statistics related to criminal aliens under the Obama administration, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Compared to the Bush administration. All right. So we'll see that.
Well, I didn't make any promises that. You're making the comparisons. I'll send the statistics and let your people make their own decisions. How's
you're
that?
saying you're saying more people came in, so your only comparison
No, you're saying that.
No, you said that. You said more people came. You said more people, criminals. I'm saying
that Barack Obama's.
Okay, you send me that. I'll compare it to the past, and we'll see if there is a trend, because that's obviously, we need to compare some apples to apples.
I appreciate your analysis today.
Thank you, sir. I do appreciate it as well. Thank you, Congressman.